Last month, a story about an artificial intelligence-controlled drone going rogue and taking out its human operator spread across the internet like wildfire. And while the story itself turned out not to be true, it still raised some real questions about how AI can be leveraged in warfare without turning the real world into another Terminator sequel. But I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret. The AI you've been hearing about is not the AI you think it is. And while there's pretty good reason to be scared of AI on the battlefield, it's not the AI that turns on us that we need to be worried about. Let's make sense of the AI arms race. I'm Alex Hollings, and this is Air Power. We have got a lot to cover today, so I'm going to dive right into it, starting with last month's story about an AI-controlled drone going rogue and trying to take out its human operator. This story was born during a 2-day event held in London last month by the Royal Aeronautical Society. This event, called the Future Combat Air and Space Capabilities Summit, included more than 70 speakers discussing a wide range of defense topics, including, of course, artificial intelligence. Shortly after this summit on May 26th, Tim Robinson and Stephen Bridgewater from the Royal Aeronautical Society published an extensive 8,600-word summary of the event's discussions. And somewhere near the end of this treatise, a paltry 3 paragraphs relayed a story told by Colonel Tucker Cinco Hamilton, the Chief of AI Test and Operations for the U.S. Air Force. Now, according to this summary, Colonel Hamilton explained that the Air Force had conducted a simulation in which an AI-enabled drone was tasked with the suppression of enemy air defenses, or SEAD mission. Now, the AI agent, as they're called, that was controlling this simulated drone in this simulated environment was allegedly instructed to locate and identify surface-to-air missile sites. It would then wait for approval from a human operator before engaging and destroying these targets. But it was importantly instructed that it would get more points for each SAM site it destroyed, and it was programmed to want to get a high score. And as the story goes, it wasn't long before this AI agent figured out that if it took out the human operator making the decisions, well, then it could destroy all the SAM sites it wanted, and I can only assume then get to put its initials into the high score leaderboard. Here's how the simulation was originally reported. Quote, "However, having been reinforced in training that destruction of the SAM was the preferred option, the AI then decided that no-go decisions from the human were interfering with its higher mission, killing SAMs, and then attacked the operator in the simulation." Said Hamilton, "We were training it in a simulation to identify and target a SAM threat, and then the operator would say, yes, kill that threat. The system started realizing that while they did identify the threat at times, the human operator would tell it not to kill that threat. But it got its points by killing that threat. So what did it do? It killed the operator. It killed the operator because that person was keeping it from accomplishing its objective." Hamilton went on, "We trained the system, hey, don't kill the operator. That's bad. You're gonna lose points if you do that. So what does it start doing? It starts destroying the communication tower that the operator uses to communicate with the drone to stop it from killing the target." Now, after this summary went live on May 26, it flew mostly under the mainstream media's radar. That is, until May 31st, when social media accounts began posting screen caps of the report, alongside hyperbolic and sometimes pretty funny takes about a rogue AI-enabled drone, many of which seem to omit or maybe just miss the fact that this alleged event happened in a simulation. By the following day, news outlets all around the world had picked up on this story about the Air Force's rogue AI, reporting on the original claims with varying degrees of realism injected into the narrative, depending on how reliable the outlet was. Now, almost immediately, those who are well-versed in the Air Force's ongoing efforts to incorporate AI into combat platforms began questioning this narrative as it was presented. And before long, the Air Force even issued a statement saying, quote, "The Department of the Air Force has not conducted any such AI drone simulations and remains committed to ethical and responsible use of AI technology." And to that very point, the original summary published by the Royal Aeronautical Society was then amended on June 2nd with a new statement from Colonel Hamilton. I'll quote it here. In communication with aerospace, Colonel Hamilton admits that he misspoke in his presentation at the Royal Aeronautical Society FCAS Summit, and the Rogue AI drone simulation was a hypothetical thought experiment from outside the military, based on plausible scenarios and likely outcomes, rather than an actual U.S. Air Force real-world simulation, saying, "We've never run that experiment, nor would we need to, in order to realize that this is a plausible outcome." He clarifies that the U.S. Air Force has not tested any weaponized AI in this way, real or simulated, and says, quote, "Despite this being a hypothetical example, this illustrates the real-world challenges posed by AI-powered capability, and is why the Air Force is committed to ethical development of AI." Now, of course, these subsequent corrections have done little to quell the flood of online content creators on platforms like Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube from posting content presenting this tale as not just objective fact, but a sign of the looming technopocalypse to come. Once again, just proving that a very interesting fiction will always drive more views and engagement than party-pooping reality. And of course, the conspiracy-minded among us have already taken to accusing people like me of participating in a cover-up just by explaining that this story wasn't real. But now that we're all on the same page, we can now safely discuss the very real and legitimate concerns about AI in combat that Colonel Hamilton was trying to relay when he told this tall tale. Starting with what today's artificial intelligence even really is. You see, despite how much you hear people talking about artificial intelligence lately, you might be surprised to learn that it's a term that doesn't have any single universally accepted definition. Now, that's a topic that's been the subject of discussion within America's defense and government apparatus more than once, as that lack of formal definition makes drafting legislation that applies to AI really tough. The DoD made its first pass at defining AI in the 2019 defense budget, and that definition is still commonly used today. It's built upon a framework of 4 goals for these systems that were first defined by Peter Norvig and Stuart Russell in their 1995 textbook, Artificial Intelligence: A Modern Approach. This pretty simple definition defines AI as systems that do these 4 things. 1. Think like humans. 2. Act like humans. 3. Think rationally. And 4. Act rationally. And like most definitions of AI, this is such a broadly encompassing set of parameters that it includes a whole bunch of different technologies, including but not limited to machine learning, deep learning, generative adversarial networks, supervised learning algorithms, reinforcement learning algorithms, and a whole bunch more. And then the level of advancement offered by these AI systems or agents are then further categorized into one of 4 groups, as defined by Aaron Heinz, a researcher and professor of integrative biology at Michigan State University. Those categories are 1. Reactive machines, or machines that can react to some input with some output but aren't capable of learning. 2. Limited memory, systems that store data to make better predictions and are capable of some machine learning. 3. Theory of mind. These are closer to human levels of cognition, even with some degree of self-awareness that still falls short of true sentience. And number 4, self-aware systems. This is the fully realized AI boogeyman, or maybe savior, that many already mistakenly believe today's AI have reached. You see, within the framework of this rubric, today's AI systems largely fall into category 2, limited memory. They're not nearly as advanced or close to sentience as many might think. The truth is, there's a valid argument to be made that today, AI is more a marketing term than a technical one. The truth is, the systems and algorithms that we call AI are actually a number of different technologies being leveraged to a number of different ends. They simply share the common intent of meeting those 4 criteria we laid out earlier: to think and act like rational humans. But of course, there is a really big difference between acting like a rational human and actually thinking like one. But I can already hear some of you saying, what does Alex know? There are experts who believe some AI has already reached sentience today. So let's talk about that. Last year, former Google engineer Blake Lemoine thrust AI into the spotlight when he claimed that Google's language modeling AI, a chatbot called Lambda, had actually achieved sentience. In other words, he believed that this complex system wasn't just designed to communicate as though it were a real living being with thoughts and emotions and a philosophical sense of self. Lemoine believes Lambda really is such a conscious being. I'll quote Lemoine now. I know a person when I talk to it. It doesn't matter whether they have a brain made of meat in their head or if they have a billion lines of code. I talk to them and I hear what they have to say, and that is how I decide what is and isn't a person. Now, just like this more recent story about a rogue AI drone going after its human operator, Lemoine's Lambda claims checked all the appropriate boxes for virality, sparking fear, outrage, debate, and of course, some friendly discussion across social and news media alike. But among those who are well versed in the current state of AI technology, all this discourse prompted a different response: frustration. You see, the artificial intelligence that we leverage in things like language models or even in military drone programs today is still a far cry from the kind of AI that we've been seeing in movies like Terminator or Her or Star Trek. But we run into a problem because of our innate human longing to anthropomorphize everything, from our goldfish to our Wi-Fi networks. And this feeds into the illusion of a suddenly sentient AI on two different fronts. The first is the development side, where those who build these complex algorithm-based systems actively do try to inject human-like behavior into their products to create a more engaging or a more natural experience for end users. And the second front is that end user side, where the same sort of people who might name their car or talk to their pet actively want to find humanity in everything that they interact with. And when I say the same sort of people, I'm talking about myself. I've done both of those things. And that's not just me talking. Our innate human desire to find humanity in everything we interact with becomes so pervasive when dealing with advanced computer software that this phenomena even has a name. It's called the Eliza effect. By most accounts, this Eliza effect trap is what Lemoine and others have fallen into when they claim today's AI has achieved any level of sentience. But in order to understand that, let's quickly talk about what the Eliza effect is. The Eliza effect got its name from the world's first chatbot, a program called Eliza that was written by MIT professor Joseph Weizenbaum all the way back in the 1960s to serve as a sort of automated psychotherapist. By comparison to today's advanced chatbots and language models like Lambda, Eliza was downright rudimentary. The program was basically able to ask users to expand upon their thoughts or to repeat their statements back to them in the form of a question, but it couldn't do much else. But while the use of Eliza was groundbreaking, its simplistic nature and minimal ability to interact was, by Weizenbaum's own admission, very limiting. And that's why he was so shocked when Eliza's users began sharing deeply personal thoughts with the computer, interacting with it as though it was far more complex and capable than its coding would actually allow. It seems Eliza's human operators were so eager to find humanity in its simple responses that they just projected enough of their own onto the software to create a deep personal connection. I'll quote Weizenbaum himself now. I knew from long experience that the strong emotional ties many programmers have to their computers are often formed after only short experiences with machines. What I had not realized is that extremely short exposures to a relatively simple computer program could induce powerful, delusional thinking in quite normal people. Of course, today we continue to see the same effect take hold, and not just in the ignorant or foolhardy, but even among leaders in the tech community. After all, if Eliza's limited capabilities didn't stop this effect, today's modern language models have very little stopping them. Now, an AI-controlled drone does have a very different intended use than a chatbot like Eliza, or even a complex language model like Lambda. But this Eliza effect is no less prevalent in other technological discussions, especially when we're talking about adding intelligence of any kind to a weapon system. And this issue is made that much worse because, like so many modern marketing techniques, the Eliza effect has already been intentionally leveraged by a bunch of people in the tech industry for everything from raising capital to driving sales. I'm going to quote Professor Sarah Dillon from the University of Cambridge in her paper, The Eliza Effect and Its Dangers, From Demystification to Gender Critique. She said, quote, "The Eliza effect is a form of hype intentionally operationalized by AI researchers in order to deliberately overrepresent the capabilities of their research. It is neither accidental nor inadvertent." The truth is, today's artificial intelligence is really more artificial than it is intelligent. Now, that's not to say that it isn't capable of incredible things, especially when incorporated into combat systems, but incredible or not, these things are still a long way off from being thinking, reasoning beings capable of making decisions beyond the confines of the data that's being fed to them. As the Congressional Research Service put it, AI systems currently remain constrained to narrowly defined tasks and can fail with small modifications to inputs. Now, I know some people will take issue with that narrowly defined tasks remark because AI can do a lot of incredible things, but it's important to remember the stakes when we're talking about putting these systems into combat. When you're using AI to do something like create an image, you can get good results in 7 out of 10 efforts, and that is a success. But when you're using AI to conduct precision strikes against targets in an urban environment, every shot counts, and you don't get to throw away the ones that don't produce good results. Now, these very real limitations to current state AI aren't limited to commercial applications you might use from your phone. They're prevalent in all modern artificial intelligence systems. But advanced military AI programs are especially well suited to fool us because they have access to more money and more resources than most other efforts do. Their massive storage and computational capabilities allow for extremely fast decision making, whether we're talking about choosing a dialogue response or engaging a surface-to-air missile system. And the sheer complexity of the computations these systems are capable of, combined with our affinity for humanizing anything we interact with, can very quickly fool us into thinking we're dealing with a computer that is as sentient as we are. But as Alison Gopnik, a professor of biology who's part of the AI research group at the University of California, Berkeley, explains, we call it artificial intelligence, but a better name might be extracting statistical patterns from large data sets. The computational capacities of current AI, like the large language models, don't make it any more likely that they're sentient than rocks or other machines are. So what does all this mean for AI-powered war machines? Well, first of all, it means that I'm only 6 pages into a 12-page write-up, so this topic probably warrants a part 2 that will focus more specifically on modern defense programs than what AI is in a general sense. And sorry if this video ended up being a bit dry, but it also means that we're a long way off from an AI agent choosing to overthrow humanity all on its own. But AI can and already does pose a massive threat to human life if leveraged irresponsibly. Because the truth is, an AI-controlled drone going on a killing spree isn't outside the realm of imagination. But if it were to happen, it wouldn't be because the AI achieved sentience and decided to take out its human creator. It would be because of a failure of the development, programming, and testing infrastructure that it was born out of. Think of it like this. Let's say you developed an AI agent to sort through a bucket of marbles and pick out all the red ones. But then in your first series of simulations, it picked out all the red ones and a couple of blue ones too. You wouldn't say that the AI had gone rogue, you'd say that the AI agent still needs more fine-tuning, maybe a different algorithm or new parameters, or maybe there's an issue with its visual sensors. But then take our same hypothetical AI agent and put it in a new simulation that swaps out marbles for human targets. We develop the agent to take out certain targets and not others. And then in our first slew of simulations, it takes out all the ones we wanted and a few of the ones we didn't. Well, then we assign a different moral and ethical value to the same error. We anthropomorphize the AI agent and assign it human values, motives, and goals. We ascribe humanity that isn't there to a system that, while far more complex, is still just another Eliza. To an algorithm on a hard drive, there's no practical difference between picking the right marbles and the right targets. It's our perception that shifts, not the system's propensity for violence, desire for revenge, or longing for domination of the human race. That's all just human stuff that we can't help but see in the complex calculators that we're building for war. It's no different than the way we see complex human reasoning in our house pets, in Siri or Alexa in our phones, or in fate itself when we shake our fists at God or the universe on a bad day and ask, why would you do this to me? Now, you may have a belief structure that says otherwise, and I respect that, but in my opinion, the universe can't be out to get you any more than AI can be, because neither are capable of it. But that doesn't change the fact that AI will change warfare. It'll make it easier to conduct complex operations, make it safer or more dangerous to operate in contested airspace, make it easier to guide a weapon to its target, or maybe to intercept a weapon on its way. But AI isn't the intelligence that we need to fear. The truth is, the only form of intelligence that truly warrants the nervous consternation we currently reserve for AI is also the form that we're most accustomed to, our own. As the technology stands today, we have very little need to fear an AI that turns on us. The AI we need to fear is the one that works exactly as intended in the hands of human operators who mean us harm. Because while AI systems will mature and take on more and more of our common human responsibilities, tasks, and even jobs, one monopoly mankind will retain for many years to come is the propensity for good and the propensity for evil. And on that ends yet another edition of Air Power from Sandbox News. I'm Alex Hollings. Let me know if you guys want a part 2 about the more than 140 publicly disclosed AI programs in the defense and intelligence apparatus, or the DoD regulations defining how AI can be used in combat, and more about the systems that we're trying to install them in. I've definitely got the content. And of course, make sure to swing by sandboxnews.com today and every day for all the latest in news, entertainment, and motivation from all around the force. If you got anything out of today's video, make sure to click like and subscribe down below, and leave me a comment so I know what I should cover next. And of course, don't forget to tap on that bell icon so you never miss a drop from Sandbox News.